Okay, so be honest with me. How many times have you had a solid week on plan, then absolutely blown it at the weekend? You tell yourself, I'll just have a few drinks, and then before you know it, it turns into a takeaway, a Sunday binge, and before you know it, you're starting again on Monday. Yeah, trust me, I've been there. And so nearly every single one of my clients before they learned how to fix it. In today's episode, I'm breaking down why weekends are wrecking your fat loss progress, the mindset mistakes you're probably making without even realizing, and how you can still enjoy your weekends without undoing your hard work. So, if you're new here, I'm Sam, personal trainer and online coach, and someone who's lost 11 stone without giving up my weekends and social life, without giving up takeaways or nights out. I know how easy it is to let those 2 days ruin the other five, and I know exactly how to stop it. So, by the end of this episode, you'll have practical tips you can start using this week to take control of your weekends, still have a life, and to stay on track without feeling like you're missing out on life. So, if this sounds like something that you'll need, hit follow, share with a mate, and let's dive in. So first of all, let's discuss why weekends are actually a problem for a lot of people. And the first point really is this whole all or nothing mindset. So people being super strict with themselves, and that normally only lasts Monday until Friday. They've restricted themselves so much to foods they don't enjoy, exercise in crazy amounts, tons of cardio, boring food. And then what happens is it gets to the weekend and they go completely off track. The Monday to Friday has been so hard for them that they then just completely sack it off at the weekend and go crazy. And that's something you see so often that's happened because people are restricting themselves so much. And a really major point to consider here is that ultimately being successful in your weight loss journey is going to come down to being in a calorie deficit. And if over the space of, say, like a Friday night, Saturday, and Sunday, you're then overeating like crazy, you can actually wipe out all of the calorie deficit that you've accumulated Monday to Friday. So, therefore, all of that good work, supposedly done Monday to Friday, can actually be undone just in the space of the weekend if you've gone really crazy. And it's so easily done with hidden calories and things like drinks, takeaways, and just the odd little treat here and there. And it's something, if you're not actually doing any level of tracking, before you know it, you're putting yourself back into a calorie surplus. And not only are you going to be not actually losing weight, but you could actually put on weight, even when you think, well, 5 days out of 7, I'm being really good. But yeah, but it then depends how bad as such you're being on that Saturday and Sunday. Ultimately, it is an overall equation. And if you're going crazy at the weekend, those calories for the course of the week are going to be bumped right up. And it's so easily done with social situations and peer pressure and people saying to you, oh, you've been really good so far this week. You can afford to have a little bit off here and there. And don't get me wrong, you can, but there's a real difference between that and just going crazy in the tons of mindless eating. And it's so easy to get yourself into this mindset of seeing food as a reward. So again, you feel like you've done really well Monday to Friday, been super strict. And then you think, well, I've done all this, I deserve a reward because I've been good all week. And then suddenly you go crazy. And again, it's just so easily done that you actually make these mistakes. And suddenly you're undoing all of the good work. It's something that you see so often. And again, people tend to make real common mistakes. Like they decide to skip meals throughout the day at the weekend because they're then planning on binging later on. And whilst they might think in their head, well, I'm reducing the overall calories then to try and counteract eating more later on that day, it doesn't actually necessarily mean that that's a good idea, because what you're actually doing is increasing your hunger throughout the day and almost starving yourself. So then by the time you actually get to the point of eating, you're so hungry that you're then even more likely to overconsume than you would have been if you'd eaten more normally throughout the day. it's quite a difficult cycle to get out of, and it's something I've been guilty of so many times. I would know, for example, I'm planning on having a pizza on a Saturday evening, so I'd barely eat throughout the rest of the day. But then by the time it got round to it, I was so hungry that I wouldn't just eat that pizza. I'd then have chips and chocolate and crisps and all these other things and binge. I've just completely undone everything that I was trying to do. Um, Another real issue over the weekends is not having any kind of plan or awareness as to what you're actually eating. Going for meals out, and there's nothing wrong with this. I'm never going to tell you that you can't have meals out, but if you're actively trying to lose weight, you need to be paying some level of attention to what you're actually consuming on meals out. Having some sort of plan in place and thinking, okay, well, I can still have this meal out here, but maybe I should go for a slightly lower calorie option because I'm trying to achieve this. And that's something that people aren't doing. They're not tracking or paying any attention to the amount of calories that they're consuming, whether that be in food when they're eating out or they're going out for drinks. And before you know it, you're suddenly putting in hundreds or thousands of extra calories just because you've not actually even planned what you're doing. And it's something that you see so often. And this whole sort of like reckless approach to a weekend leads to this cycle of the I'm starting again on Monday idea. So then you think, well, I've come off a plan, I might as well just do whatever now, and then it's all right, I'm starting again on Monday. And it's this all or nothing approach that just seems to continually crop up for people, that just time after time ends up with no real results actually being achieved. And it's something that's so common, as I said, and it's something that's actually quite heartbreaking to see because so many of us, including myself, have fallen into these traps so many times before. And there really needs to be a mental and psychological switch in terms of viewing the weekends as almost like a separate day to the rest of the week and thinking that Monday to Friday I'm on plan, the weekend I'm off. Well, ultimately, the weekend's just another day. Yes, you might have a bit more social time in order to spend with friends and family, and you might be doing more things, but it's still a part of your week. It's not like it's completely separate to the rest of it. And one of the biggest things that I would say is that you still need to try and create some sort of routine, because a lot of people at the weekend, they completely fall out of their routine and their actual habits. And that's when it leads to emotional eating and stress eating and stuff, and just being completely out of any sense of order leads to just completely different behaviors that people have Monday to Friday when they're in a set routine of going to work, doing this, doing that. And people can end up bored and suddenly eating a load of food because they haven't got that stimulus that they have during the week, often with their work. But then it leads to the guilt. You feel guilty for doing that. You then punish yourself with a super strict cycle, which then results, again, the same thing the following weekend in another blowout. And it just happens time after time because you're not actually creating a plan that's sustainable and works for you. And it's restrict, binge over and over. And there are actually some really simple, actionable fixes out there for you that can, instead of this constant up and down, or all or nothing, actually see more linear progress that's one, sustainable, and two, far more enjoyable and actually far more mentally safe for you, and not that constant punishing yourself for doing things. So shifting from this most of the time mindset, shifting to that rather than an all or nothing, thinking that the vast majority of the time I'm going to be a little bit more disciplined, and then every now and then I can be a bit more relaxed. That's a far healthier position to be in and generally consistent, rather than I'm going to be absolutely militant or I'm paying no attention to what I'm doing at all. That's a really key, simple fix. And another one is actually just having some sort of plan in place and planning ahead for your meals, planning ahead for events or drinks and stuff like that, and actually factoring it into your life. That's something that's so easy to do, but still allows you to actually enjoy yourself and live a normal lifestyle. It's something that so many people seem to feel like you can't actually do, that you can't have a social life and still lose weight. And you really can. It just requires a level of planning and consideration actually going into it. And another big one is honestly thinking of other ways other than just eating and drinking to enjoy yourself at the weekend. Not everything in life has to be around eating and drinking. And don't get me wrong, I know it's a huge, enjoyable part of life, but not everything has to be focused around that. You can still go out and do things and not necessarily have to have a burger and chips or a drink. You can still go out and do activities and still stick on track without having to come completely off. It just requires a little bit of thought, whether you go and play, I don't know, crazy golf or you go and do some activities together. You don't necessarily then have to eat, but it's almost become like this routine for people that it's, I'm going out, so I have to do this. And that's where it just requires a little bit of a mindset shift, really. And one of the biggest ones is honestly just keeping up some of your normal daily activities, whether that be going for a drink or having some level of tracking, even if it's looser than on Monday to Friday, but just some sort of awareness as to actually tracking what you're doing, tracking your output and stuff like that, and just actually reframing the whole narrative of the weekends and thinking about how the weekends are still just an opportunity to actually pursue your goals and aims, and that you can still enjoy your weekends, enjoy social events without completely sabotaging the overall process. And it's really a case of just focusing on consistency day in and day out rather than being absolutely perfect. And this is the problem, so many. It's not about being perfect, it's about being generally consistent. And it's why one meal out or one night out isn't going to completely ruin your fat loss. But it's then about how you respond to it. And if your response to going out for that meal on a Saturday is then to sack off the rest of Sunday and just eat like crazy, then yes, ultimately you're not going to see the results that you want long term. And you need to have a switch in that and thinking, okay, I've gone out, I've had a nice meal, I planned it in. Today, I'm back on track. There's nothing wrong with doing that. And it actually means that you see far better results long term because you're enjoying what you're doing, you're still having a social life, and you factored it into a plan that you know works. And it's something that I myself have had to do. I got so sick and tired of that constant cycle, as I said, of restricting and binging. And then when I actually realized that, well, do you know what? If I actually create a plan that features foods that I enjoy, factors in going out at times and enjoying myself, that if I actually have that in place, that then I'm not going to keep binging because of restricting myself. And that's just led to a much healthier place to be in that sees results and feels so much nicer. And that it's not a case that you have to be like I've been in the past of going absolutely crazy and then restricting. And that you can have somewhere in between of some level of enjoyment, but also sticking to your plans. So it's just something that I think it just requires a little bit of thought and a little bit of a mindset shift to planning your weekends around your life, but around your goals. Because it's not that difficult, honestly, to still enjoy yourself, to go out and to still maintain a healthy lifestyle. It's something that we're all capable of doing. I've done it. I've helped tons of clients implement this sort of plan into their life. It's something that we're all really capable of doing. And it's such an easy thing to fall into. And the weekends for so many people really do prove the difference between them actually achieving their goals and not. And as I said to you, I'm never going to say to you that you can't enjoy your weekends, you can't enjoy a meal out. But you just need to be mindful of what you're actually doing and not just going crazy and binging. So honestly, guys, there you have it. The weekends don't have to be this big thing that completely ruins your fat loss progress. It's really not about being perfect. It's about being aware, making smart swaps, owning your choices, and most importantly, not letting one night out turn into a 3-day write-off in which you go crazy on Friday night, all of Saturday and all of Sunday. It's easily done. So if this episode has hit home, what I'd really like you to do is to share it with someone who needs to see it. We all know that mate who starts again on Monday every single week. Send this their way. Pop it on your story, tag me, and let's spread the message. And please don't forget to hit the follow and subscribe, because next week's episode is going to be brilliant. This whole podcast is really just focused on showing people that losing weight doesn't have to be so hard. I've gone through it, I help other people do it, and I want to help you too. So just remember, guys, you don't need to live like a monk to get results. Real life, real results. You've got this. I'll see you next week.